Ever feel like you're talking but nobody's really listening?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're on one side of this conversational canyon and nobody's like waving back.
Yeah, I've been there.
Right. It's the worst. And, we all want to be heard, but how often are we really the ones doing the listening? So get ready to dive deep into this whole world of effective listening. And no, just stuffing your phone in your pocket doesn't make you some kind of listening guru.
It's true. We often think we're listening when we're really just like, you know.
Hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Big difference between passively registering sound and really truly understanding someone, connecting with what they're feeling, and all the, unspoken stuff beneath the surface.
Right, like picking up on all those subtle cues.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that saying, we have, what, 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason? But are we actually using those ears to their full potential? I was just reading this piece by Jane Adshead Grant, and she made this really interesting point. A lot of people overestimate their listening abilities. Yeah, it's like assuming you're an above-average driver statistically, not everyone can be.
That's a good point. I never thought of it like that. And that's where empathic listening comes in.
Yeah.
It's about using that emotional intelligence, really trying to see things from their perspective, instead of just waiting for your turn to jump in with your 2 cents.
Right, like putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly. Say, for example, a colleague, Sarah, is venting about this project that's completely gone off the rails. An empathic listener wouldn't just jump in with solutions or like,
Tell her to calm down.
oh, God, no, never that. Instead, you acknowledge her feelings. Maybe say something like, wow, Sarah, that sounds incredibly stressful. I can only imagine how overwhelmed you must feel.
It's that feeling of being seen and heard, right?
Yeah.
Like someone gets it, even if they don't have a magic wand to fix everything.
Exactly.
It's huge. And it makes you realize that communication isn't just about the words themselves, but also all those unspoken signals we're sending. It's like this whole other language we speak without even realizing it.
Like a secret code.
Right. So let's break it down. We're talking about body language, facial expressions, tone of voice. What are the key things we should be looking for?
Okay, well, let's start with posture. Are you leaning in, showing them you're engaged? Or are you all closed off, arms crossed like you're putting up a wall?
Blocking them out.
Exactly. Then there are facial expressions. A genuine smile can be so disarming. And try, even subtly, mirroring their emotions. Like if someone's eyebrows are practically in their hairline because they're worried, mirroring that can really build a connection.
Yeah, like you're reflecting their feelings back to them.
Exactly. And we can't forget tone of voice, which can completely change the meaning of a sentence. Think about it. Someone could say, that's fine, but if their voice is tight and clipped,
You know something's up.
right, their words are saying one thing, but their tone is screaming something completely different.
It's that feeling you get when something feels off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Now that we're talking about it, it's kind of scary how much we probably miss when we're not tuned into all these subtle details.
Oh, absolutely. It's like watching a movie with the sound off. You might get the gist, but
You're missing a lot of crucial information.
exactly. Learning to read these nonverbal cues really elevates you from being a passive listener to being an active participant in the conversation.
You're not just hearing the words, you're understanding the whole message. That's fascinating. It makes you think about how crucial this must be in professional settings.
Absolutely.
Like in those high-stakes meetings or even just navigating a tricky conversation with a coworker, creating that environment where people feel truly heard.
It can be a total game changer.
So how do you actually create that safe space for open communication? Especially at work, we can't exactly dim the lights and hand out stress balls in the middle of a presentation.
Yeah, maybe not. But it all starts with setting those expectations right out of the gate. Like imagine you're leading a team meeting. You lay down some ground rules, everyone gets their turn, no interrupting, and all ideas are welcome. Even the really out there ones.
I love that. So you're saying it's about building that foundation of respect from the get-go.
Exactly. And your own body language speaks volumes too.
Yeah.
Think about it. How would you want someone to look at you if you were sharing a, kind of risky idea? You wouldn't want them checking their phone, right?
Yeah, it's the worst.
Right. So model that behavior you want to see. Lean in, make eye contact, show them you're really present.
It's like you're saying, I'm here, tell me everything, without actually saying a word. But let's be real for a second. Even with the best intentions, staying focused these days, it's like an extreme sport.
Oh, tell me about it.
Phones are buzzing, notifications are popping up, emails are...
It's a lot. So first things first, external distractions. Gotta go. Phone on, silent, or better yet, Another room entirely. Close those tempting browser tabs, and if you can swing it, find that quiet spot where you won't be interrupted. I even read this study that said facing away from clutter can help you focus.
Curiously.
Yeah, something about minimizing visual distractions.
I can see it, like clearing all the icons off your computer desktop before you really dive into a project.
Exactly. Now, for those internal distractions, the ones that just pop into your head out of nowhere, that's where that whole mindfulness thing comes in. Because you know what happens, you're in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly you're thinking, did I leave the oven on?
It's the worst.
Right? And it's so easy to get frustrated. But the key is to just gently acknowledge the thought and redirect your attention.
Like, okay, brain, thanks for that, but we're busy right now.
Exactly. It's like mental weightlifting. The more you practice, the stronger you get. And while you're working on that, a few active listening tricks can go a long way. Nodding along, making eye contact, little verbal cues like, I see, or tell me more, can work wonders.
It shows them you're right there with them.
Exactly.
And speaking of active listening, you mentioned this HEAR technique earlier. I want to break that down.
Oh, yeah, the HEAR technique. It stands for halt, engage, anticipate, and replay. It's super helpful for staying locked in.
Okay, I like it. So it's like a mental checklist for better listening. Walk me through it. What's step one?
Halt. Just like it sounds, you hit the pause button on whatever's going on in your head, quiet those mental squirrels, and give them your full attention.
It's that whole be present thing everyone's always talking about.
Exactly. Then you engage. Be an active part of this conversation, not just passively taking it in. Ask questions, dig a little deeper into what they're saying, really try to see their perspective.
So you're not just soaking it up like a sponge. You're like wringing out all the good stuff.
I like that. Okay, now it gets really interesting. Anticipate. You're mentally staying a step ahead in the conversation, trying to anticipate where they're going with it.
Wait, so you're like predicting the future of the conversation now?
In a way, it's more about picking up on those cues, both verbal and nonverbal. Like, if a coworker is telling you about this presentation that went terribly wrong, they mention feeling flustered and then pause. You might anticipate that they're about to share a specific example, so you ask, what part felt the most flustered? And by anticipating, you're not just passively listening. You're in that mental dance with them, which keeps you from spacing out.
Okay, I'm kind of mind blown right now.
It's pretty cool. And finally, replay. Take a beat to mentally replay what you just heard and try to sum up those key points. Did they just give you vital information for that upcoming project? Were they hinting that they need help with something? It helps solidify what you just heard, and it's like hitting the save button on those important insights.
I love that. So we've covered creating safe spaces, silencing those distractions, and now this HEAR technique. That's a lot. But it's clear that this active listening thing, it takes effort.
Yeah, it does.
But the payoff has got to be huge, right?
Huge. And not just to be a better friend or partner, although that's always a good thing, but as a leader. Game changer. They can be the difference between a team that's like unstoppable and one that's constantly hitting a wall.
So not just avoiding awkward silences by the coffee machine.
No, we're talking real, tangible results in the workplace. Think about it. When leaders really listen to their team, it's like
they actually care what their team has to say, instead of just like pretending to listen while they wait to lay down the law.
Totally. And that makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
When people feel heard, their engagement is through the roof. There are even studies on this. It's directly linked to higher motivation, productivity, you name it.
Makes sense, right? Like if you feel like your opinion actually matters, you're going to be way more invested in the work.
100%. And that brings us to problem solving. Because when you really hone those listening skills, it impacts every decision you make.
So it's not just about team morale or whatever. We're talking about a real impact on the bottom line.
Absolutely. When a leader really listens, they're getting the full picture, right? Not just the surface level stuff. They're uncovering those roadblocks, the different perspectives, all those things that might have flown under the radar otherwise.
So it's like preventative maintenance instead of waiting for the engine to blow up.
Exactly. And that leads to better, more creative solutions. And here's the thing. When a leader takes the time to truly listen, it builds a culture of trust.
Because it shows they value what their team has to say.
Exactly. It creates that space where people feel comfortable speaking up, sharing their ideas, even admitting when they need help.
Which ultimately makes for a stronger, more resilient team.
100%. And that kind of trust, that open communication, it doesn't just appear out of thin air. It takes effort, You have to be intentional about it. Consistent action and a willingness to really listen. Not just with your ears, but with your full attention.
It's like anything else worth doing, right? It takes practice. It makes you think about all the ways this applies to, well, everything. Our work, our relationships, even just walking down the street. Instead of just waiting to jump in with our own 2 cents, what if we all try to actually hear what the other person is saying?
Now you're talking. Imagine the connections we could make, the things we could learn if we all committed to truly listening a little bit more.
It's a superpower we all have. We just got to remember to use it. So to everyone listening out there, no pun intended, let's make a conscious effort to flex those listening muscles, put those phones away, silence the distractions, and really tune in to the world around you. Who knows what you might discover?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's it for this deep dive into the power of listening. We'll catch you next time.